All right, ready to dive into something that can really make or break your website?
Uh-oh, sounds serious.
It can be. We're talking meta descriptions today, those little snippets of text that show up in search results. They might seem small, but they have a huge impact in 2025.
You mean those little blurbs that try to get you to click on a link?
Exactly. We've got today, November 1st, 2024, and it breaks down everything you need to know about crafting meta descriptions that actually work.
Hmm. So what's the big secret? Is there some magic formula?
Well, there's no magic formula, but there are definitely some proven strategies. And get this, the article says that Google actually rewrites over 60% of meta descriptions. Crazy, right?
Wow, over 60%. I had no idea it was that much. Why would they do that?
That's what we're going to find out. But first, let's start with the basics. What exactly is a meta description, and why should we even care?
All right, so imagine you're scrolling through Google search results. You see a bunch of links, but how do you decide which one to click on?
The title definitely plays a role, but also the little description underneath.
Exactly. That's the meta description. It's like a mini ad for your web page, giving you a chance to convince users that your page is what they're looking for.
It's like your website's elevator pitch, right?
Yeah, you've got a very limited space to make a good first impression and entice those clicks.
And those clicks are super important because they directly affect your click-through rate, or CTR.
Right, and Google pays close attention to CTR. A high CTR signals to Google that your page is relevant and valuable, which can potentially boost your search ranking.
So we need to make sure our meta descriptions are so good, so clickable, that Google doesn't feel the need to step in and rewrite them.
Exactly. And one of the key factors here is understanding user intent. When someone types in a search query, what are they really looking for? What's their goal?
We need to think like the searcher, basically. But it's not just about matching the exact keywords anymore, is it?
No, it's not. Google is getting smarter, moving towards what's called semantic search. They're trying to understand the meaning and context behind a search, not just the individual words.
So our meta descriptions need to reflect that deeper understanding too. Instead of just jamming in keywords, we need to use language that feels natural and flows well.
Right. It's about addressing the user's underlying need, not just parroting back the search terms.
Okay, user intent and semantic search, got it. But there's more to this puzzle, right? This article also dives into something called structured data or schema markup.
Ah, yes, structured data. It sounds technical, but it's basically a way of giving Google more context about your content. Think of it like giving Google a VIP backstage pass to your website.
So instead of Google trying to guess what our page is about, we're giving them a clear roadmap.
Precisely. We're using a language that Google understands to tell them things like, hey, this page is about a product, or this is a recipe, or this is a local business. And this can lead to those visually appealing, rich snippets in search results.
You mean those search results with extra information, like star ratings or recipe details?
Exactly. And those rich snippets can really grab attention and improve click-through rates.
Okay, rich snippets sound pretty awesome. But how do we actually implement this structured data magic? It all seems a bit overwhelming.
Well, there are tools and plugins that can help simplify the process, and the payoff can be huge in terms of visibility and click-throughs.
All right, so we've got user intent, semantic search, structured data. It's like building a meta description powerhouse. But before we get carried away, let's talk about something practical. Length. How much can we actually fit into these little snippets?
That's a great question. We have to be mindful of the character limit, which is around 150 to 160 characters.
Oh, so it's like Twitter for search results. Gonna make every word count.
Exactly. Google might cut off anything longer, leaving users with an incomplete message.
So we've got to keep it short, sweet, and impactful.
Right. Think of it as crafting the perfect tweet to represent your entire web page.
Okay, so we've covered user intent, semantic search, structured data, character limits. What else should we be thinking about when crafting these mini masterpieces?
Hmm. Well, we need to think about calls to action, creating a sense of urgency, and incorporating those key words in a natural way.
Sounds like there's a lot more to unpack here. But this article also mentioned that Google sometimes rewrites these carefully crafted descriptions, right?
It's true, Google does rewrite a significant portion of meta descriptions, and it's not always a bad thing. Sometimes they're just trying to optimize the snippet for the specific search query or make sure it fits the length requirements.
So how do we minimize the chances of getting rewritten and craft meta descriptions that are so good they make Google jealous?
That's what we'll delve into next. Stay tuned. So, you spent all this time crafting the perfect meta description, but then Google comes along and rewrites it. Frustrating, right?
Totally. It feels like all that effort went down the drain, but you said it's not always a bad thing.
Right. Sometimes Google's just trying to help. Maybe your meta description isn't quite as accurate or clear as it could be.
So it's like Google saying, hey, I appreciate the effort, but let me just polish this up a bit.
Exactly. Or maybe your meta description doesn't quite match the user's search intent. Google wants to make sure that the snippets in the search results are super relevant to what people are actually looking for.
So even if my meta description is technically accurate, Google might still rewrite it if it thinks it can make it more enticing to click on.
Exactly. Remember, Google wants users to have the best possible experience, and that means finding the most relevant and helpful results quickly.
Okay, so we need to make sure our meta descriptions are both accurate and appealing. And we've got to watch out for that character limit too.
Oh, absolutely. If your meta description is too long, Google's going to chop it off. And no one wants to end up with a half-finished sentence in the search results.
So length, accuracy, engagement, got it. But this article also mentions something about AI-generated meta descriptions, which sounds kind of freaky.
It is pretty wild. Google's using AI to create these dynamic meta descriptions that are even more tailored to the specific search and the person doing the searching.
So it's like Google's reading our minds now.
Well, not quite reading minds, but they're definitely getting better at understanding our intent and context. They're using all sorts of data like search history, location, even the time of day to create the most relevant search experience.
Wow, so how do we even begin to optimize for that? It feels like we're playing a whole new game here.
Don't worry, a lot of the best practices we've already talked about still apply. User intent, clear language, natural keyword integration. But we also need to start thinking about things like conversational language and entity optimization.
Conversational language. You mean like writing meta descriptions that sound like, a normal person talking?
Exactly.
That makes sense.
Think about how people actually search, especially with voice assistants. They're not saying best keyword stuffed phrase. They're saying, hey Siri, find me a great coffee shop near me.
Okay, so we need to write meta descriptions that sound more like natural speech, less like robotic keyword lists. And what about this entity optimization thing? Is that like, I don't know, name dropping celebrities in my meta descriptions?
Haha, not quite. Entity optimization is all about helping Google understand the key entities, the people, places, things, concepts that are relevant to your page. We could do this by using structured data and incorporating entity-related keywords.
So instead of just saying best pizza, we might say best wood-fired pizza in Chicago.
Perfect. You're giving Google more context about your page, and that can help them create more relevant and informative search snippets.
All right, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here, but let's get tactical for a second. What are some actionable tips for crafting meta descriptions that'll make both Google and users happy?
Well, one thing that's super important is to front-load your key message. Get to the point right away in the first few words of your meta description. Remember, you don't have a lot of space to work with.
So grab their attention right out of the gate. No burying the lead.
Exactly. You want people to know immediately what your page is about and why they should click on it. And think about incorporating a clear call to action, something like learn more, or get a free quote, or shop now.
So nudge them in the right direction, but make it feel natural and relevant to the content.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to inject a little personality or intrigue. You could use power words, ask a question, highlight a unique benefit. Anything that makes your meta description stand out from the crowd and pique the user's curiosity.
Okay, so it's like adding a little sparkle to catch the eye, but without resorting to clickbait tactics.
Exactly. Authenticity is key.
Yeah.
But how do we know if our meta descriptions are actually working? Are we just throwing darts in the dark here?
Good question. Is there a way to track how well they're performing?
Absolutely. Tools like Google Search Console can track your click-through rates for different search queries. It's like having a little spy cam in the search results.
So we can see what's working, what's not, and make adjustments as needed.
Precisely. It's an ongoing process, a constant dance between art and science. And remember, the world of SEO is always changing.
So we've covered a ton of ground here. User intent, semantic search, structured data, AI, and how to keep Google from rewriting our beautiful meta descriptions.
Phew. That's a lot, right? But what's cool is that it all comes back to one main thing.
Oh, and what's that?
Understanding your audience. We've got all these fancy tools and strategies, but at the end of the day, it's all about connecting with real people.
I used to think SEO was all about algorithms and technical stuff.
Yeah, it can seem that way.
But the more we talk about it, the more I realize it's about human connection, making your website stand out from the crowd and making sure people can actually find it.
Exactly. It's like, have you ever searched for something and found that perfect website that seems like it was made just for you?
Oh yeah, all the time.
That's probably because they nailed their meta description. They understood what you were searching for and crafted a snippet that spoke directly to your needs.
It's those little details that make a big difference. So, as we wrap up this deep dive into meta descriptions, what are the key takeaways you want listeners to remember?
Well, first things first, your meta description is your first impression. It's like a tiny little billboard for your website, trying to grab attention in a sea of search results.
First impressions are everything, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You want to make it count. And don't be afraid to experiment. You know, try different things, track your click-through rates, and see what works best for your audience.
So it's not a one and done kind of thing?
Nope. It's an ongoing process, like a little science experiment, constantly testing and refining. Because SEO is always evolving. You got to keep up.
Great advice. Hopefully everyone listening feels ready to tackle their meta descriptions and make them shine. Even those small tweaks can make a huge difference.
Yeah, you'd be surprised.
So to wrap up this whole episode, I just want to say, in a world overflowing with information, being able to capture attention is super valuable. So go out there and craft some awesome meta descriptions.
And have some fun with it.
Exactly. Make those clicks count and show people what you've got. Thanks for joining us for this